I didn't need to use language anymore. They knew from the look on my face that there was no mirror needed. And what was so powerful in that moment was that I could feel and I knew everything. Like I knew everything I needed to know, and I really owned it.
One of my best friends in the world is on the podcast today. I have been trying to get her in this freaking studio for years. And though she lives in the same state as me, it is hard to get this woman out of her house. Her name is Meggan Watterson. She is the Wall Street Journal bestselling author of Mary Magdalene Revealed. And her brand new book, The Girl Who Baptized Herself, is out today. I am so proud of Meggan and the 5 years that she devoted of her life to this particular scripture, this particular story, and the relevancy it has for humans, particularly women today. And in this conversation, we went everywhere from Meg's story of getting sober to my story of how this book about a girl who baptized herself really helped me to unhook from some really sneaky ways in my life that I was still waiting for permission, still waiting to be chosen. So if there's any part of you that is waiting to have what you want, settling for crumbs, going back over and over and over again to situations or people that you know are just not it, this conversation is for you. Meg is not only trained from Harvard and Columbia in divinity and theology, she's hysterical and one of the most human, real people you will ever meet, as well as one of the most brilliant. So enjoy the episode. Welcome to Plenty. I'm your host, Kate Northrup, and together we are going on a journey to help you have an incredible relationship with money, time, and energy, and to have abundance on every possible level. Every week, we're going to dive in with experts and insights to help you unlock a life of plenty. Let's go fill our cups.
Please note that the opinions and perspectives of the guests on the Plenty podcast are not necessarily reflective of the opinions and perspectives of Kate Northrup or anyone who works within the Kate Northrup brand.
Yeah,
Hi.
I love you.
I love you too. Thanks for being here.
Lady.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So,
Are you already crying?
I'm already crying.
I just saw that.
Okay, so for context,
Yeah.
today I am going to cry. I'm going to cry right now. I want to talk because so many people talk about meeting friends as a grown-up.
Yeah.
And that can be a challenge. And it has not been a challenge for me. But I wanted to share the story of how we met and a little bit about the weaving, just for context of our conversation, but also because I really like the story.
Yeah.
And just about like how our people are out there. And if we remain plugged in to the signal, it's really obvious. So I know that you remember how we met, but we met, I was in New York and you were in New York, and this woman I had known because she had worked with my mom years before, Gail Straub, who used to run the empowerment workshops, which is where my mom met Ned Levitt, who became her agent, whatever. I don't remember why, but she said to me, I know this woman, Meggan Watterson, and I think you should meet her. She's doing this conference. You should go. And then after, it was your very first reveal.
Yep.
What year was that?
2011, I think. No, 2010.
It would have been
2010.
no,
2009.
I think it was 09.
Shay was still
because Shay was
a baby. He was like 9 months old.
And what year was he born?
2009.
And you gave birth to your first baby and you did reveal the same year?
Same year.
What is that, do you think? I know so many women who do really big things in their career the year they have a child. What was that about for you?
I think it's interesting, but I recently was having this conversation with someone online that there's so few rituals to mark the way that we really die when we give birth. Like, we are not the person we were at all. Like we can't even refer back to that person. There is an actual death and rebirth.
Yeah.
And that we need more of that language, the words to really describe what that was like. Like I can literally pinpoint the moment. It was when the doulas wanted to bring the mirror to look at my vagina. And I was like, I didn't need to use language anymore. They knew from the look on my face that there was no mirror needed. And what was so powerful in that moment was that I could feel and I knew everything. Like I knew everything I needed to know, and I really owned it. There was a sense of authority I reclaimed or claimed in that moment where that was the end of the former self. And I began again in that moment because there was no reference. Like a mirror is a reflection. It's a reference. It's a distraction though. It's a once removed. And in that moment, it was like, no, I know exactly where he is. I know exactly how I'm doing, and I know what I'm doing. They wanted me to not scream as loudly, like to sort of rein in some energy, which I do understand why that's, but I was at a point of there's no coming back from where I was, you know? I was ardently and very enthusiastically calling for Christ every time I pushed.
Yeah.
And I was screaming at the top of my lungs.
Yeah.
I mean, and I knew physically that's what I needed to do to get him out of this world. And so it didn't matter what was happening outside of me. I knew, as in directly from within me, what I needed to do. And that's when the old me died and and maybe that's the initiation into motherhood. But for me, it was, how was this related to what you asked?
Well, this is so perfect. It's just the perfect place to begin. I mean,
what was the question you would ask me?
I asked you.
No idea.
I asked you, what was it for you about giving birth to Shay in the same year and giving birth to Reveal?
Okay, so the last sort of tether that I want to say to that is that I don't think it was an accident that I didn't publish until after he was born.
Yeah.
Because there's a level of self-doubt then.
Yeah.
I still struggle with it to this day as a writer, but it fundamentally shifted because you go through that actual death. Like I really feel like I felt a death.
Yeah.
And I understood physically both how infinite we are, but also that the infinite is terrifying because we only get to be in this physical body.
Which is quite finite.
Is so finite, so brief. I mean, it's just insane how brief it is. So to feel that and to know that physically in that moment, it allowed me to have like this tool, you know, to use that feeling as a touchstone when I would start to doubt myself as a writer. And I think for me, though, it was also that I needed community in order to write. So I love that with my story, there was Reveal first, where I was calling in all of these.
It was a community first.
It was a community first. I didn't publish until
after. It was a conference. I mean, it was amazing. And so I show up there because Gail told me to go. I was like, sure. And Gail was like, I think you should be friends with Meggan. And then she introduced us. Yeah. And I had just offered randomly. I was like, hey, you just did a really big thing. Literally, I did not know you. You're a brand new mom, you know, but I was like, if you want to hop on Skype just for like a digestion of this big thing that you just did, I'd be happy to be that person for you. And then we Skyped, that's like how long ago? Because what even is that anymore? We Skyped it when you were in Cleveland with baby Shay visiting your mom that summer.
Yeah.
And then that was that. Like,
that was it.
That was it.
It was love at first sight.
It was love at first sight. And you had created this incredible community first, which you had created Red Ladies before that.
Right.
But Reveal was like on a much bigger scale.
Right. Because my apartment was getting too small to, hold the Red Ladies. And also I wanted to make a louder call, to throw the net out wider for all different forms of religions and spiritualities, so that the voices of the women that were coming together I wanted to understand, okay, how do we name and describe the divine? How do we name and experience and describe mystical experiences? Like what is ultimate for us? Like what is really sacred, right? Because what's always fascinated me the most is I have equal rage and excitement about so many things that have to do with religion. And one of the things when I was in seminary was just the realization of the way that all of these practices have been fundamentally structured by men and described by men and from the male experience. So to me, there's so much excitement in thinking about creating that void. Like there hasn't been that same expression, that same amount of container for a female body and what it means to encounter the divine in the female experience. And so it excited me because it was sort of like, the monk's experience is really like a typical Tuesday for any woman. This,
I love this part. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's like emotional support, emphasis on self-denial, and
Like emotional repression.
Yeah.
Really.
and really the silence, the quiet, all of those spiritual norms that we associate with spirituality. I loved being able to question, is that really spiritual for me, for my experience, when that's already expected of me in culture because I'm female? So what does it mean for me to be spiritual? Maybe it means, saying the thing that's never been said before. Maybe that's so much more spiritual. Maybe it's just something that we haven't quite put words to yet.
And that we each get to explore for ourselves. That,
Yeah.
As someone like you who is literally, trained in theology the way,
Yeah.
I'm saying quotation marks, sorry. Theology.
But
Right, like you went to the school
I
to
did.
learn the way it
To
was,
do all the
right?
things, right.
And then while you were there, I believe, although
Yeah.
maybe it happened before, you discovered this is not the correct word, what I'm about to say, but what I want to say is the lost gospels. But what are they actually called?
Well, so typically when I was at seminary and divinity school, they were referred to as the Gnostic gospels.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes. And that's been helpful and also problematic.
Okay.
The way that it's helpful is that it allows us to group them together. They're all the scriptures that were not codified in the New Testament in the 4th century. And there's a reason for that. One is that they focused on Gnosticism, or the word gnosis in Greek, which means direct knowing. So, which I love. And that's sort of a red thread that runs through them. And also they include so many of the stories of women, like the Gospel of Mary and the Acts of Paul and Thecla, which is what this next book is about. So they were not included, but there were a whole bunch of rebel monks. Somebody refused to get rid of them, and they buried them in urns in the Egyptian desert. And some were found at Nag Hammadi. The Gospel of Mary was not. It was found along the Nile. So they're grouped together, but the problematic part about them is that they get misunderstood as being a separate religion or a separate cult or spirituality. They are actual evidence of the root system of the Christ movement, of the form of Christianity that existed before the 4th century.
And in the 4th century, to catch
Yes.
anybody up
Yes.
who is not aware
Yes.
of how the King James Bible, as we understand it, came to be,
Right.
Can you just let us know what was that actual history and what was actually going on there, and what was the point of the Bible at that time?
So
Or that version
Constantine-
of the Bible.
Right. So Emperor Constantine wanted to make Christianity the empire's religion. And what's very significant is that up until that point, there's like hundreds of years, right? After Christ's crucifixion, before Christianity began. And during that time period, if you were Christian, you were killed. So that's how seditious it was to be Christian, because if you were Christian, you were essentially challenging all the power structures of the Roman Empire. You're saying the love, the power that exists within me exists within you too, whether you're male or female. And if you were male and female, that was a whole very different reality for you.
Yeah.
Females had, you couldn't vote, you couldn't run for public office. They had next to no rights. So a female was considered less than, literally was not a whole human being, was not a whole, only the male body was the full human being. And what's so powerful about the Gospel of Mary is this constant repetition of that Christ had called us to be true human beings. So all of us, male and female. So the emphasis then is on what exists within us that can't be seen in this physical form, but that renders us all equal. And that was the part that kind of pissed Constantine off and didn't work with the idea of making Christianity become patriarchal, right? If you have all this evidence of women being in, girls baptizing themselves and women being in the most prominent positions of power like Mary Magdalene, then that's not going to work to have Christianity become the empire's religion.
Right.
So really what was happening during that process was editing out the scriptures that told that story about Christ and including the scriptures that really told what scholar Karen King refers to as the master story. And it's this idea that it is a exclusively male succession of authority, spiritual authority coming down from Christ, and that it's only males. And so that was established at that time. Really what happened was the patriarchy became deified.
Got it.
Yeah.
And that was very much on purpose. And so this idea that we can refer to the Bible, which is the King James, version that we see in any hotel room, whatever, right? Along with the Book of Mormon, that is some sort of end all be all, as though it was written by God,
right?
Him, her, themselves,
right?
Is not actually like historically accurate,
right? And this is not something that I found out, and it's this. Right, no one's ever. This is
common knowledge.
Everybody who goes through any kind of even small amount of, history or studying theology, or a religion course. Yeah. Anyone can learn this. This is very accessible. I think what's hard.
It's accessible, but there's a lot of amnesia about it.
Exactly. There really is. There's this intractability around the idea that actually maybe the Christianity before Constantine got his hands on it was far more radical than anything we have ever considered.
Okay, so you gave me The Girl.
Yes.
Your brand new book,
yes.
The Girl Who Baptized Herself. At the time of publication of this episode, it is out today, Pub Day. And I was going through my own thing about needing to choose myself. And I assume, I'm like, whatever. I've been at this for a long time. Yeah. I don't have self-worth issues. I don't know who to put it. I'm very humble. I'm always working on my shit.
Yeah.
But I wasn't aware of some sort of gaping wound where I really needed some kind of empowering female story. I'm lying in bed I'm reading this book, and I was like, it was like balm to my soul. And so, I'm happy to share more about that, but I want to know, do you remember the moment when you knew you needed to tell her story in a bigger way? And how did you know this was your next book?
2 moments. The first was when I first ever heard of this story when I was in seminary.
Okay, so this has been a long time coming.
Yeah. And a girl who baptized herself, a girl who's like constantly having to save herself, because that's another thread. Like literally, she physically has to save herself. She spiritually has to save herself. I was like, there cannot be a more relevant message. Like
No,
we can't
especially
wait
right
for
now.
anyone to save us. Like we have to save ourselves, but we're not told that ever.
You said Thecla is demonstrating for us that no one is coming to save us, no one except the one we become by saving ourselves. So good.
And I was, again, it's that those two moments, I'm always existing on the extremes, which touch each other, right? So that works out. But like
Big old horseshoe.
so irate and angry that I'd never heard of her. Like, how was it possible? Everybody's heard of Paul. Like everybody's heard, well, okay, maybe not everybody, but most people know of Paul the Apostle a little bit, you know?
A little bit.
But no one has heard of, like, even the most devout. I really struggle to, there's so few people who've heard about Thecla, and yet she ministered right alongside him. So it's the anger about that erasure, the anger about, you know, that as a girl, I didn't get to have this example, this model. I didn't have this. I didn't have this roadmap to reclaiming my worth within a spiritual context. But then it's also the excitement, like how, okay, so it was saved. Somebody saved it. Someone buried it, and we have it. And just also the trust in the timing. So there was that moment when I first encountered it. I absolutely knew my life was about bringing these voices that literally had been buried, like actually buried in the sand, to bring these buried voices to the present moment. But then in 2020 was when, because the world was standing still, right? And I was going inward in a way that, I mean, of course, you know, for me, that's my favorite pilgrimage. My favorite form of travel is going inward. And all of my book tour for Mary Magdalene Revealed was canceled, which
Right, because
again,
the pub
you
date
know
of
that
Mary Magdalene Revealed was
2019, was at the end of 2019.
Yeah, okay.
So it was like
that
the
was a
fall
bit of a
20
wash. Right.
2019. And so we just, everything that I had planned for this spring and this summer, everything was canceled.
Yeah.
Which, you know, there was quiet celebration in me around that. I'm okay with that.
If you don't know Meggan, she does not like to get on airplanes or really leave home for really any reason.
I am actually, I have the constitution of a
You do. I
cloistered
mean,
nun.
and just like as case in point, like we live in the same state. And I mean, for a couple hot more seconds. And like, I've been asking you to come on the podcast for, you know, for a really long time. And like, you're a dear friend of mine and I know you love spending time with me, but it's like hard to get you out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's I mean, like, I'm thrilled you're here. And also it's such a testament to, anyway, okay, that's like a whole other story. So it's 2020,
So
everything's canceled. You're home.
And going inward was okay, so it's like if we all have to be still and be still for longer than what's normal, then
and way longer than was comfortable.
Right, for all of us. I mean, that was an opportunity for so many of us, and so amidst the death, and I think for me, it just became the text I needed to study because of that one line and the women all cried out in a loud voice as if from one mouth. We had gone through Me Too. We had gone through the Women's March. We had, gone through the gyms, the girls' gymnastic, like that revelation. Like we had been through so much of this reclaiming of our voices and putting words to what we had all just put up with. Mm-hmm. But saying we're not going to anymore. And I felt like I hadn't applied that to my own life. Like I hadn't gone through that. I had marched, I had done all the things, but I hadn't really undergone that with myself. that sense of what does it mean? Because at the end of, and this is a spoiler, but okay. At the end of the book, it's like Thecla fighting for her freedom gives permission to all the women in the arena to fight for their freedom as well. So there's a formula about what happens when we unite.
Yeah.
But for me, everything external is also internal. Yeah. So that union, I knew also had to happen within me. Like, what does that mean for me to really fight for my life and to fight for something? Don't make me cry. To fight, like, to really ask for more than I even knew how to ask for. And I was very aware at that time that I had been living off of crumbs when it came to love. And that's really what I see Thecla refusing, and the women in the crowd refusing, is the crumbs of power. They refuse to accept that anymore. And so it was just, that was one of the gifts that really intense period in all of our lives, 2020, was giving to me, was like, how can I really find that place within me that believes in me in a way where I've never been able to practice it yet. You know, I haven't really put it into my life directly. And her scripture, it's just 45 chapters, but it is so powerful. And I couldn't stop studying it. You know, I became obsessed with it, and I just couldn't stop reading it. I read it again and again and again. And I practiced something called Lectio Divina, which is basically just a fancy, spiritual word for saying you marinate over certain words, certain passages. So I was doing that for a lot of the passages, and it was showing me the way that there's a template here in the structure of the way she reaches, right? She starts off this teenage girl with no power, about to be married off by her family in this little red brick house, to becoming one of the first female followers of Christ, and being given the commission by Paul to preach, but only after she baptizes herself. So I really wanted to study that transformation. Yeah. Like what, and for me, because 7 is that's just my number. I mean, that I just can't, and there's like 2 7s in this book too, because I also go through the 7 powers of Mary's gospel. But the 7 stages, what was so fascinating for me, because I'm someone who studied the Homeric epics. I don't know if you knew that about me. Yeah, I studied them.
I love learning new things about you. Who does that? No one.
But I did study them. And so there were moments where I kept thinking about the differences. Like I was doing this comparison. If I was still in college, I would have written a paper about it. But I kept doing these comparisons between Odysseus, where he starts off. And what I found so striking is that his story is one where he starts off on an island. He's already powerful, right? His story starts, he already has power and agency. Thecla, she has none when she starts. And he goes back to his physical home. She starts off home and also comes back home, but she comes home to embodiment. Like she says this I am statement to her mother, the mother who, offers to burn her at the stake. Yeah. And she says this I am statement, where for me, it just felt like there's something unique about this template, where it's more about coming home to our physical body. And how much more difficult is that if your body is the one that's considered less than, right? There's a different journey that has to happen.
And so Thecla lived how many years ago?
So some scholars date her scripture to as early as 70 AD. So she would have been 1st century. Yeah. Okay. No, that's considered.
Really? I don't know.
2nd century? Yeah.
Stop.
Not. I hate time. I hate linear
Whatever.
time. Yeah.
It's like so long ago.
So long ago.
What's so striking about
I know.
her story
I know.
is how deeply relevant it is today. And then the way you wove in your own story, which is so brilliant. And I know that, whatever, people think that you're supposed to be a scholar and never put yourself in. And like,
Yes.
that's so dumb. And also terminally boring because I'm so not interested in reading something that doesn't come from a human. Like there's no such thing as the objective truth. So can't we all just stop pretending that we don't all have strong opinions that are shaped by our own reality?
Right. I think it's really important to name the fact that my metaphysical beliefs are affected by my physical reality.
Exactly. And okay, so that I work at the intersection of our own personal worth, money, the nervous system, and the body. Like you and I ultimately, we are so wildly different and we are
the same.
Doing the exact same work.
Yeah.
And so there was a piece that you said here, and so I'm so struck by like that journey of coming into full embodiment in a body as the full journey home, like the arrival is trickier. Probably, we would imagine when it's in a body that has not been lauded as the right kind of body and
doesn't have a model of a spiritual authority that looks like,
feels, whatever. Right. And so I just am so struck by, it's like, oh, wow, it's 2025 and this is freaking relevant. So you wrote, for many of us with trauma, I'm like, oh, that's not a funny sentence. Okay, hold on, let me reset. Sorry.
Adjust.
Okay, let me readjust.
Change tone.
For many of us with trauma, that path to reclaiming a sense of our innate worthiness can be treacherous and hard won. Yeah. It's elusive because we often imagine it will be given to us by someone else, that it will be accrued through acts of service or through external achievements. But our worthiness being human is deeper and more hidden than anything we can actually point to, earn, or prove, and anything that could, in the end, be taken from us.
Exactly.
For you, since you became obsessed with this scripture in 2020 when, the world stood still, now it's 2025.
Yeah.
We've been on quite a journey. We've all been on quite a journey. But like that piece for you with your personal story, living in your body in this lifetime, what has changed for you as a result of you journeying with her and writing this book and being a total hermit and like you just went went full fucking deep
full hermit
for 5 years.
Yeah, it's so wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, like, and how are you different now?
I think the way I like to describe this is that I'm only ever more me. So it's not so much different. It's more being the one I've always been. Yeah. And it's just not having to apologize or explain myself. Mm-hmm. It's just being fully who I've always been with so much less effort. So there's that.
No small thing.
The worth part, though, and how that's changed my life is that I really couldn't see the way that my attraction to my ex-husband was so tethered to my sense of self-worth. I could not see that. And that took some serious, that did take me stopping life and really, really going inward in a way where I met with a memory of my dad driving with me drunk, which was not something I had ever repressed.
Yeah.
It was always there.
Like you knew.
I couldn't feel it. Right. I couldn't feel what that did to go through that. I couldn't feel it. And finally, it was like being with Thecla for this long, like what she gave me was like this sense of mercy and love for myself, like where I was able to be in that moment with, little 9-year-old me, and the way that I just went silent, and I didn't want to upset him. But he was, I'm very lucky to have survived that drive. And I left my body in a way it's taken me most of my life to return. And it's like, I didn't know that I had that sense of a lack of self-worth from that moment because he cared more about drinking than he did about my safety. And I think because I'm so protective and loyal, I love him so much, and he got sober. So it's like I didn't want to go back to that moment too for that reason, because that was one of his lowest moments in life. And so to be able to feel that moment, it fundamentally shifted, finally, my relationship to really accepting the crumbs I was only ever getting in that, even at the best moments. It was not who I am and what I am.
Right.
It didn't match my,
Totally.
it's just, there's so much love. There's so much, it's not about him. It's about me. And all that time I had been waiting him to finally choose me. And I've seen those Hallmark movies. Like, I've read those books. I knew I was supposed to choose me. But it's like, how do you do it?
Well,
right?
Okay, so I told you I didn't need your book because I was like, well, it's not like I'm going to sit here quoting it. Turns out I actually am. So you also wrote in here, you quoted Ruby who
Juices. Yeah.
Juices. Thank you. I live in Miami, so
I think I didn't
want to call her Ruby
Juices.
Yeah, anyway. Okay, so anything that is familiar to the brain is seen as safe.
Right.
Even if it is harmful or not what we want.
Right.
Our brain is capable of learning the habit of pain.
Exactly. And that's what I had done. I was hardwired for pain.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to want more for myself until her story. I think to a certain extent we get very comfortable. Like, that's where she starts
very comfortable.
off. She starts off in her little brick house and like in this, set cultural norm of you get married and you go. I think it's really hard to want more for ourselves, to really start to desire something new, a new story.
Because actually, for our survival brain, wanting more is perceived as a threat.
Right.
To our literal survival.
Right.
So it makes sense, right? We are wired this way. And also we can do that deeper work of going deep within to find the truth of who we are.
Yeah.
Now, the other part of your story that I did not know and that I really loved reading about, it was like really bold and courageous, was about your journey of getting sober.
Yeah.
Because, I've known you for a really freaking long time. I met you the year your son was born. He's now nearly 16.
Yeah.
Like I held him when he was a ginormo baby.
I know.
and like, you've never really been a drinker. Like, that wasn't part of my awareness of you. I mean, like red wine here and there, but like nothing. That's not like a huge part of your identity by any stretch. So I'm so curious because anytime that I talk about sobriety with our community, it's a really hot topic. Folks love learning about it. Mike and I have talked a lot about it with his sobriety journey. As you know, I don't drink. So I want to know more about that and how it was related to choosing yourself.
Yes, it was really critical. And I really didn't want it to be because I don't like the hard and fast traditional ways of someone being spiritual. Is like, they wear white, don't drink, eat certain foods, like all of that. I've never wanted to be someone who like adheres to those types of things. So I resisted it for so long. I knew there was a problem there. I actually knew way back, like when we were first like hanging out. And I would say things actually to Gabby sometimes. And just sort of, and it would surprise me when I put it out there. It's not that I never got drunk.
No.
I never got drunk. So I think this is a nuanced sobriety story.
That's why
I think it's really
like
important.
Or whatever. Any sobriety story is beautiful, but I think it's interesting.
Yeah, because I really didn't think I needed to get sober because I was never drunk. But what I didn't understand is that I had a problem with drinking because I was using it as a blanket. I was using it as a way to sort of keep me in that place of just staying in the pain. Like it let me wallow in it. It let me sort of feel like actually what I would hear sometimes when I would go, I had this tiny little snifter. I talk about it in the book.
It's
It was
really
so tiny. It was so cute. It was just a tiny little snifter.
it's like a doll cup.
It was so cute. And so it never made me feel like,
Yeah,
I can't, how can you
totally.
have a problem if you're like,
No, it's like me, back
was
in the day
invisible.
having like taking a knife and cutting off a piece of cake that was like literally a half a millimeter. And then, but by the time I've had
exist.
25 of those.
I mean, I would
not
have,
that you had,
no,
but
no, I'd be dead. I
Yeah.
still am a lightweight. No, but so I would have these little,
Just a whiff.
sips. And
Yeah.
it definitely started getting more intense when I was living in Cleveland, right? That's where everything bad that's ever happened to me in my life happened there. So it was like returning there was really a deep, deep healing, and going back and really being able to own and claim and heal all of that. But it was also hard. And so sometimes I would say, I get to have this.
Oh.
That was because I saw it as medicinal.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I get to have this.
Yeah.
Like I've been through so much.
Yeah.
Like I've handled so much. There's so many things I do that are like lady boss, that are, like I travel by myself. I do so many things, but I'm like, I get to have this. I get to have this. I get to go a little numb. But it was keeping me from that connection to that memory. It was keeping me from ultimately healing all the way back and all the way through. And I knew it actually when I was doing the Lectio Divina with one of the passages, which was, and Thecla did not turn back. Thecla did not turn back. That is described of her sitting for 3 days and 3 nights. And the scripture says, and Thecla did not turn back. And that for me lit up. It was
This is at the beginning when she's at
at the
her
beginning
house
when
and they
she's-
keep calling to her
right.
and
And
she
her
won't
fiance
turn around.
and her mother
Yeah.
are so pissed, right? Because she's starting to exist with the unconditional realm, right? Unconditional love accessible within her. She's not dealing with the conditional love that they were offering her. She was like, those were crumbs. I'm ready for the cake. Like I'm going inward. And so they're, all upset and, trying to pull her outward. But the scripture says, and Thecla did not turn back. And I was like, I've been turning back periodically, like without anyone knowing.
Yeah.
We would get back together again, never for long enough usually to tell other
mention it.
people,
Yeah.
to others, but then also not talking about it because I felt ashamed. I felt like, but didn't I already learn this like 15 times? Like, didn't I already learn this? And how can I tell people that, like people who look up to me, that I'm doing this? Like I'm trying to make this work, even though it's shattering me every time I try, and it's ending the exact same way. And so I kept hearing that, and Thecla did not turn back. So I kept asking, and this is inwardly, how do I not turn back? Like, how do I not? I actually felt like I had more control over the red wine than I did over getting back together with him.
Makes
I felt
sense.
powerless. I felt out of control, and I felt powerless. But so for me, I refer to it as getting sober,
Yeah.
because it was like I had to get rid of the blanket, the red wine. Like I had to rip off that comforter, and I had to get really naked, and I had to look that in the eye and figure out why did I keep choosing this? And that's what it took. It took really just never. And I feel like since healing, maybe in some people's sobriety journey, they would feel okay at this point. Like it's been 4 years now. Maybe they would feel okay with integrating some alcohol or, it has never felt right for me again. And it's not a struggle, but either is the other thing. And I feel like they're tethered together. And I just, I feel good being sober.
Yeah. Yeah. And the pattern in your romantic life,
Right.
you said it also has not been a struggle.
Right. Oh no.
I mean, what a freaking revelation.
Yeah.
I just I
That's
want
freedom.
anyone hearing around anything that we feel we're powerless about,
Yeah.
whether it's overspending,
Yeah.
you know, some kind of drug, honestly, like addiction to anything, right? And you may not
Right.
label it that way, and I think we don't need to, but like
Yeah.
things
No,
that we
it was an
feel
addiction.
compelled
Yeah.
around
Yeah.
that we
There was
think
a
like
compulsion.
maybe this
Yeah.
is going to be hard forever and I'll have to be in this
Right.
tug of war with
Yes.
myself and it's going to be a fight forever. Like I just want people to hear
thank you.
4 years.
Yeah.
It's not a struggle because you healed all the way in and all the way through.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that piece that Ruby Juices, whatever name, like it's so powerful that, you know, I talk about this all the time, that we will go back to what it doesn't feel good, but it feels like home.
Right.
Until we change
Right.
the thermostat setting.
Right.
And changing the thermostat setting requires feeling a bunch of things
Right.
that we did not previously have, the infrastructure, the support, the emotional turgor,
Right.
whatever to feel. It's not bad. Like, I don't think
Right.
that emotional avoidance or repression or whatever, like, I don't think it's anything
Yes.
to feel guilt or shame about.
Yes.
It's just you have to build enough of a foundation to have the ability to do that.
I like to describe healing as a nautilus.
Yes.
For that reason, because I think it's really important we don't shame ourselves
Totally.
for not having healed by a certain linear timeline,
Yeah.
because that's not
It's
the
ridiculous.
way it works.
Yeah.
The soul is in Kairos time. It's not in chronological time. So, and for me, it was that I had to become enough love that could reach all the way back there. I had to accrue it.
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
So it was that timing, not linear time. Yeah.
And when you tell that story about that moment for you with your dad, one of the things that you do so brilliantly, and I use you as an example about this all the time, actually, when people are asking about how do I write about what happened to me without throwing the people I love under the bus. And
Right.
you do that in like the most elegant, you did it in Reveal, you did it in Mary Magdalene Revealed, you did it again. And I'm like, damn, how does she do that? Like the overflowing love you have and your ability to take responsibility for your own side of the street without making anyone wrong, but while at the same time telling the truth. That is some alchemy. Like it's incredible. How do you do that?
So I owe it all to meditation. That's meditation. That's going inward. That's all. And I wanted to say with that piece that I'm so grateful that you brought up about, you know, that there is a way through. Because I think if there was one formula that's in this book, it's that the only way out is within. It's the only way out is within. And I think that's probably the least popular formula.
Totally.
I think it's what we all
Can it be a cream?
can it be anything other than that? Like anything other than that, you know?
Yes, it's so true.
It just is.
It's the last place we
It's the
ever want to
last
go, and it's the
place
last place we look.
We look, and it's where real transformation has to happen. I know.
It really does. Okay, I have a silly story about that because I think you're going to like it.
Okay.
I haven't told you this story, I don't think.
Okay.
So remember, I don't know if I told you that I really messed up with my digestion in a variety of ways, and we don't need to get into the details. And then I ended up, I got a fever like every month for 18 months.
Wow.
I ended up losing my hearing. Like it was a whole thing. And I finally, I had gone to every single holistic doctor. I'm looking all over the internet for who's what. And then I also started gaining weight. And I'm really healthy. So just sudden weight gain was like,
Right.
I'm not going to buy new pants. Like I need new pants. I like my pants. And so all of that, 18 months of like that, okay, sure, I know all the best holistic who's what's,
Right.
and I'm having sessions with them. And I'm like, are you my mother? Are you my, are you, the little duck, right? Like, who's gonna fix
Heal
me?
me.
Who's
I
gonna
know.
heal me? Nobody. I go to these people and they're lovely, but I'm like, this is come on, really? Like this is child's play, what you're giving me right now. So I'm in a hotel room in Orange County by myself, going to bed when I'm on the West Coast for a short period of time, I stay on East Coast time. So I go to bed like when the sun is setting out there. So I'm like by myself, sun setting, I'm trying to go to bed. It's like, 6:30 in California. And I go into a meditation because I'm like, mother effer, how can I be this sick for this long? It's ridiculous.
Right.
And I go inside and I just like asked my body, hey, what do you need? And it was like, and I heard the word peptides. And I was like, I don't even know what peptides are. So I start to Google what peptides are. I end up taking this course for practitioners on microdosing peptides. I learned the whole thing. I like get my practitioners, I get the whole, like I become the CEO of my own health. Hello, obviously. I know how to do this. And it's like 1 month on this right peptide cocktail, whatever, fix it completely. And my body gave me a word I don't even know.
The body never lies.
Isn't that incredible?
The body
It's
never
the
lies.
last place we
I know.
look. And this is, and it's like embarrassing because it's like the last place we look, even when this is what we freaking do.
I think surrender is hardwired in us to only arrive at via exhaustion.
Yeah,
I
know.
It's like why we just don't immediately go there. But I also think sometimes it takes a level of being comfortable with the fact that it's really that easier. Like it's really that easy.
actually so
and that
true.
it's really that we're that powerful. I think that's hard. I think that all we need to do is go inward for answers that we're seeking outward, to find.
It's very Dorothy. Wizard
I
of
know.
Oz.
It's the ruby
freaking,
red.
It's freaking Dorothy
I know.
the whole time.
I know.
Oh my God, it's so
Yeah.
good. Okay. One thing we haven't talked about.
Yeah.
Is that the massive through line in this book, like this is a book about worth.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
and at the time of Thecla's life, women were property.
Right.
You know, and that is true in some cases today as well.
Yes.
Like there are
Many
places
parts
where
of the
that
world.
hasn't
Yeah.
changed. And I was so struck by the reclamation of like that deep well of worth. And for myself, reading the book again, I've been thinking about my next body of work and how I'm going to get out into the world. And I was feeling so, and I would never have articulated like, oh, I'm having a self-worth issue, right? But I was feeling beholden to the fancy powers that be, without getting into the details, but like feeling like I was waiting for someone outside to choose me.
Right.
Which is fundamentally the
default.
same. It's
Yeah.
such a default.
Such a default.
And reading her story right at that time when I was making some bold decisions about choosing myself was really medicinal. I'm so glad you wrote this book. And you are different. More yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Like you are more yourself. I can see it, I can feel it. And even the way that this particular book, you don't need to share any details that aren't relevant or don't feel like you want to, but can you talk about the way that the publishing contract even happened and some of the magic in that? Because one of the things I love about you, to just kind of like weave this conversation home, is you do not have a marketing bone in your body.
Right.
Like your business and your work has a life of its own because it's so potent and like so needed. And the way that it's like the worth of you shines through in these works, like that you don't have to have a campaign to get that right. Like God is handling that. So can you talk about what it was like for you to get this book deal and any of that that feels relevant
It was
around the worth piece?
Because I spent so much time with Thecla during that quiet, insular time, I had this very strong sense that, for every book, we have to become the woman who finishes it, and so it's when you sign a contract, you're also signing up to do the work. This is how it's been for me. This is the truth for me. And there was this knowing, I don't know how else to describe it, just that Thecla was going to be at a different publishing house. I just always knew that. And it felt more like it was a part of the story I was going to have to go through, the experiences I was going to have to hold in terms of my own sense of claiming my worth as a writer, understanding the worth of what I've already created, which I hadn't really fully acknowledged or understood, and part of moving to a different publishing house brought that along for me. And then there's just this unspeakable part, which is an inestimable. And it's a part of, alignment, abundance from a place that can't be described in earthly material form, which was in the form of my editor, Jamia, who I'd known since Reveal days and Red Lady days, and that she was at the publishing house that I went to. And we met at Omega, and it just all, the way that it unfolded just had that air of meant to be, and the ease of that alignment that I know, it's like it has a certain tenor to it. But then also the timing of when this book comes out, which is really phenomenal because it ended up being 2025, the summer of 2025, which is the Jubilee year, according to the Vatican. And this year is celebrating the codification, the beginning of the process of the codification of the New Testament, when the Acts of Paul and Thecla was edited out. So she, and I purposely held to when during the editing process, and Jamia was very supportive of everything that I felt really, convicted about, keeping the passages of the Acts of Paul and Thecla in it. Even though it made it maybe more spiritual or religious than it ultimately is, I wanted her voice, her actual scripture to be in print.
Yeah.
So it comes out. This is how geeky theological I am, but it's being published the year the Vatican is celebrating when it was ultimately erased.
Well, buried.
So to me, moments like that are so profound, and they make me feel so relieved because I feel so tiny. I feel like just one little part of it. It's not on me. I'm just, I'm showing up.
Exactly.
And I'm doing what I'm meant to do. But there's this tapestry that's so much greater than this one little red thread that I am. Yeah. And for me, it's good.
We don't have to push to make what's meant to happen.
Yes. I am.
You are that.
I am the lighthouse version of, it's never been in me. It just, and I did think about that though once. I was like, why are you not ambitious? Like, why do you lack any of hustle?
Ambitious.
It's in a very different direction.
Yeah, I would never not call you ambitious.
Really?
I would never call you a marketer.
Okay.
But you are freaking ambitious. I mean, you are taking on Christianity as we know it.
Okay, so
hello. All
right.
Like, that's freaking ambitious.
I guess I don't. I think because that's my wheel. That's so much who I am.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel
exactly
ambitious. What I was going to say is my ambition is inward. Like I want to feel love at all times and all places. To me, that's ambitious. Like that's ambition.
Beautiful. I mean, is there really anything else? Like, I think we're going to get to the end and be like, turns out that was it. That was the whole point. I love you.
I love you too so much.
I'm so proud of you.
I love you.
What if managing money felt effortless? You've worked so hard to earn money, so why does it feel stressful? Well, I want to introduce you to something brand new that I've created called the Money Reset, because abundance starts in your body, not in your bank account. This free audio experience will help you rewire your nervous system for wealth, stop the money in, money out cycle, and create a foundation for true wealth, and relax into a new relationship with money. Plus, it comes with the 5-minute calm cash flow ritual, so you can have financial clarity and magnetism anytime you want. All you need to do to get the free money reset is go to katenorthrup.com/reset.